Hello everyone, and welcome to this Blender and GIMP tutorial. As always, if you want to jump to different parts of the tutorial, take a look at the time codes that are on the screen right now and feel free to jump to that point. So let's go ahead and get started. In this tutorial we're going to be going over how to make a custom subscribe animation that you can put on your videos. We're going to be using GIMP and Blender. Both are free, so if you want to, just Google GIMP or GNU Image Manipulation Program and you can download that. And of course Blender just came out with Blender 2.8, which is a huge improvement. It's going to be a really easy thing to do, even though a lot of people get scared when they think about using a program like Blender or GIMP. And of course you can do this with other programs too, but I happen to use those. Right here I have two images, and these are my reference. I know that I want to use hand pointing icon, and then I also have a subscribe, and all I did was just go on Google and I just Googled for a subscribe button and I Googled for a hand pointing cursor. So I'm going to go ahead and first come into GIMP and hit Control N, and then I'm going to open up a document, and I'm going to make it, let's see, 1280 by 720. Click OK. The reason I'm making it so big is I want this to be fairly high resolution. And then I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop my subscribe button into that canvas. Now this subscribe button is not actually the one that I'm going to use. I'm going to make my own. So I'm going to hit Shift T, and then I'm going to grab one corner and hold Control and just go ahead and scale this up. Okay? We don't have to worry about this pixelation because we're going to take our rectangle tool, and I'm going to come over here to my tool options, turn off feather edges but turn on rounded corners. And then I'm going to draw right here and draw a rectangle, and then I'm going to increase the radius on that rounded corners until I feel like it covers and mimics what the subscribe button looks like. Now I can add a new layer, and I'm going to call this layer subscribe. And then I'm going to come here and grab this color picker and grab the color picker and then select the color of red and then click OK. And now if I grab my paint bucket tool, I can click there and I have, I hit Control Shift A to deselect. I have a nice crisp subscribe button. Now I'm going to go Control Shift D to duplicate that layer, and then I'm going to change the name from subscribe copy to subscribed. And of course when you subscribe, the red button turns to a gray button. So let's go ahead and come here to my, with the subscribed layer selected, I'm going to come here to the colors and then the hue saturation, and I'm going to bring the saturation all the way down, and then I'm going to bring the lightness all the way down until I feel like that gray looks about right. And actually that looks about right to me. So then I'm going to click OK. So now I have a gray subscribed and a red subscribe button. Next, let's use our text tool right here, and I'm going to select my subscribe layer. I'm going to click on my subscribe button and turn on caps lock and just click subscribe. The reason that I clicked on my subscribe layer is that I knew by clicking on that and then typing, my new text layer would be directly above the layer that I had selected. But you can see that I have a problem. My text here is not only the wrong font, but it's red, and so I can't see what's going on. So let me click drag and select all of the letters, and then select the color picker here and bring that to white and click OK. And then let's go ahead and grab my move tool up here at the top And I'm going to move this right about there. Grab my text tool again, click inside my text box, and hit Control-A to select all. And now, if I come to my text options, first let me increase the size, and then let me increase the letter spacing here to really fill out that subscribe. Okay. Now, if I grab this tool, which is the alignment tool, first select my button, and then shift select my text. And then if I go to the tool options, I can click the relative to first item. And then I can click the center and the center. And it seems like there's some extra space down here. So to get rid of that, I can just come here to my layer and crop to content. Now that'll mean that I can't edit that text anymore, but that's okay. Then if I grab that same tool again, select my button, shift select my text, and then there you go. Subscribe. Now if I use my text tool and click in here, since I've gotten rid of the text information, I can actually create a new layer, and that will give me a new layer with the subscribe with the text information. And then I'm just going to add a D to the end, select everything, and decrease the font size. Then I'll move my subscribed layer up to the top, turn on my subscribed button, and then same thing, I'm going to go ahead and just go layer and crop to content, and then hit Q to get that alignment tool, and grab my button, shift, grab my text, and then align it. Okay, so now let me go ahead and right click on my subscribed and say merge down, and right click on my subscribe and hit merge down. And what that does is it creates one layer with everything there. Now you can see we have all of this excess space. So let's go ahead and go to image. Actually, first let's delete this background image, and let's delete the background. And then we can actually just go to image and crop to content. And now we don't have any extra. So go ahead and export these and export them as PNGs. So hit Control-Shift-E, and I'm going to call this caps lock is still on. I'm going to call this subscribe _ texture, and then make sure I change the file heading to PNG and save it to the correct. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the subscribe, so Control-Shift-E, and then change the name to subscribed texture PNG, export, and these default settings are fine. Now I'm going to close this. No, we don't need to save it. There's nothing we can change. And then I'm going to open another 1280 by 720 canvas, and this time I'm going to grab my pointer here. First I'm going to crop this pointer out. So hit Shift-C to get your crop tool, or come up here and click on the crop tool, and then go to Tool and Current Layer Only, because we don't want to get rid of all of the extra space. And then let's go ahead and draw a crop. Oh, there you go. I guess it it automatically cropped for me. Now let's hit Shift-T and go ahead and make that much bigger, something like that. Now I'm going to hit U. U is your magic wand, and you can select different colors. So I'm going to turn off feather edges, and the threshold, I'm going to take that to 10. And that means it will be less likely to select similar colors, because I only want these shapes here. With my mode set to add, I can just keep clicking Doesn't need to be super accurate, because this will be playing pretty small at the bottom of your screen. Now hit Control-Shift-J to zoom out and turn that layer off, and we can just select our background layer, and then we can hit this Reset Colors button on the bottom left corner of our colors, and black is selected. Go ahead and select our paint bucket fill tool, and then click inside, and you can see we have a nice crisp pointer. Then hit Control-Shift-A to deselect, and now we just have to fill in the color. So to fill in the color, I'm going to hit Control-Shift-N and change that to background. Click OK, and move the layer that we just made underneath our line. And I'm going to change that to lines in the name there. And then I'm going to use my lasso tool here. So I'm going to select it, come into the tool options, and make sure that feather edges is off. And then I'm going to make sure that white is selected as my color. And then I'm going to hit Shift and the plus button to zoom in. And I'm going to go ahead and connect up the lines that I just created by going from corner to corner. And I'm only worried about the outside line of the finger. Once you get here to the end, you can just hit Enter on your keyboard, and then hit Control-Shift-J to zoom out, and then grab your paint bucket tool and fill that in. And I had the wrong layer selected. Select the background layer. There you go. Control-Shift-A. And now we have a pointer. Last but not least, let's delete that, and then go here to Image and Crop to Content. Now the whole reason we went through all of this was to get an image with a transparent background. Of course, you could probably find and download an image, but I did this just to show you how to do it. So let's export this, Control-Shift-E, and then I'm going to say finger cursor underscore final.png, export, and export. Okay, now we can go ahead and close out of GIMP and open up Blender. Okay, so here we are in Blender. Let's go ahead and, before we do anything else, save. So we can hit File, Save As, and I've already saved one here. I'm just going to save over that. Now let's go ahead and select both that light and that cube and hit X and delete, and then select our camera and hit N, and go ahead and select our location and zero that out, and select our rotation and zero that. And then in the X, we'll go ahead and add a rotation of 90. And then we'll hit G and Y and pull our camera back. Next, we'll hit 1 on our keyboard, hit Shift-A, and go to Images as Planes. Select our cursor, Shift-A, select Subscribe, and Shift-A, select Subscribed. Okay, now to see what it looks like, we have to come here to the viewport shading for the look dev, and we can see that we have very nice looking stuff. So let's come here to our outliner and turn on selectability, and turn on disable in viewport, and turn on disable in renders. And then let's go ahead and grab our finger cursor and hit G and Y and pull that forward just a little bit, and then hide it. Now let's hit Shift-A and add an empty into our scene. And I'm going to grab my subscribe texture and then Shift select my empty and hit Control-P. And then keep object transform. Then I'm going to hide my subscribe and grab my subscribed and hit Shift select my empty and hit Control-P and keep transform. So now if I grab my empty, wherever I take that, both my subscribe and my subscribed will follow, and if I scale by hitting S, they'll also scale. So now let's go ahead and grab the subscribed texture and right click, turn off the renderability, and right click and click insert keyframe, and then do the same thing for the subscribed texture. Right click and insert keyframe. Now before we go any further, let's come here to our render engine and make sure we're on Eevee. Let's turn on motion blur, and in the color management, let's do the view transform and take the look to high contrast. Let's take the film right here in that tab and turn on transparent, and finally let's go to our world settings and turn the color to 100% white. Now if I hit 0, I can actually see the world through my camera. This is our frame here. Let's go ahead and scale. Oh, let's turn. Yeah, so if we scale this down, actually let's go, before we do that, let's go to our end frame. Say frame 30. Scale this down and put it right here on the right hand side. Oh, one other thing I forgot was to grab our camera, and in the camera settings change it from perspective to orthographic. Okay, so let's put it here in our left hand corner, and let's turn on our cursor, scale that down a little bit. Let's turn on the look dev here so that we get it right. Okay, so this is kind of where I'm going to be making this subscribe animation, is in the bottom left of the screen. So on frame 30, I'm going to hit I and location. I lock rot scale, location rotation, and scale, and then I'm going to grab the empty and hit I and lock rot scale. I am also going to go back to my output here and change the frame rate to 30 because that's what I record in. I forgot to do that. That's important. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and hide the pointer and go back to frame 0 or frame 1 and hit S. I'm going to turn on here the auto keying and hit S and 0. So it's infinitely small right now, and then as we scale up, it scales up. Now let's go maybe 5 frames past that and hit S and scale as 1.1, and then grab our keyframe before and hit Shift D and pull that to frame 40, and then go to frame 45 and hit S and 0.9, and then grab that keyframe beforehand and hit Shift D and move that to frame 50. And what that's going to do is it's going to kind of bounce our subscribe, that little animation, so it's not so stiff. And then let's go ahead and grab our finger cursor and let's hit G and X and G and Z to move it down. That's its starting place. Maybe come here to frame 70 and then grab our ending spot and hit G and move our cursor there. So now it will come up, and then go 5 frames forward and hit S and scale to mimic that getting smaller, like it's pushing the button, and then grab that frame beforehand and hit Shift D and move to frame 80, and let's hold, so grab that key on frame 80 and hit Shift D and move to 85, and then go to frame 100 and grab that finger and move it off. Okay, we're almost done. So here where the click happens on frame 75, on frame 74 I want you to go back up here to the outliner and right click on the render, disabling renders, and hit insert keyframe on both. And then in frame 75 I want you to turn on the subscribe texture and turn off the subscribe texture, and then hit replace keyframe and replace keyframe. So right now we're in this look dev, but if we change to the renders, if we render, let me see, let's render right here, render result. If we hit F12 and render, you can see on frame 74 we have subscribe, but if we turn to frame 75 and hit F12, it changes immediately to the subscribed button. So that's what turning these renders on and off does. Let's go to frame 100, and then let's go ahead and grab all of this animation and hit Shift D. Actually, let's go to frame 120. And with all of this selected, we can actually hit S and -1, and it will reverse that animation. Then we can go back to frame 100. We just needed enough space so that these frames didn't overlap, and grab and put that here. And then it bounce and go away, ending on frame 149. So then we'll grab our frame 149 and hit Control C and go to End and Control V. So let's go ahead and watch our animation right here. Comes up. Nice and simple. Next, let's come here to our output in the Properties tab and come to our folder and create a folder called Renders. Click Accept, and then I'm just going to leave this as a PNG because that will, since in our Renders tab we turned on the transparent, we'll have a transparent background, and then I can put this over any video without having to do any sort of green screen or anything difficult like that. So let's go ahead and render it out. In the render though, I actually can turn the samples down something super low. Let's say like 8. Let me just do a test render to show you. Because we're doing something that's low resolution and that doesn't actually have any lights, it's just got the global illumination, we hardly need any samples, which means our render times are super fast. So we'll save, and then we'll just hit render and render animation. Okay, so the render is done. So now we can go to render and hit view animation. There we go. Now of course if you wanted to do things like a notification bell and things like that, then you're more than welcome to do that. This is just showing you the basics on how to make this all work. So with that said, thank you guys so much for watching this tutorial. If this helped you out, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to download this animation, then I will put a link in the description down below and you can use it in your own videos. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.